For families that have children that are knowledgeable or that we're working with, which we love to work with multiple generations because it builds that trust and seamlessness through estate planning. But sometimes they don't have children, they don't have even a spouse, and they've been managing their life for themselves for a very long time. I'm noticing this is a big story as of late. This is a common conversation. And I think what I try to tell people is just trust that there are new resources. I say new, but they've been around for a long time, but there are resources. You just need the time to do it. So now's the time to talk through who your trusted people are going to be in your life. It's hard to embrace that they may be strangers to you today, but that's the point. We're going to spend the time to make sure they're not strangers to you when you need them most. You can't do that at the last minute.
Today, we're joined by Kassi Hyde, a seasoned wealth management professional with more than 20 years of experience helping families and individuals navigate retirement planning with confidence and clarity. Kassi is passionate about turning financial complexity into peace of mind through thoughtful guidance, practical education, and a client-first approach. So we're excited to have her share her insights with us today. Kassi, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I'm excited.
Okay, so I know you spent more than 20 years in wealth management. What first drew you into this profession and what's kept you so passionate about helping families plan for their future?
Yeah, so I would say I'm naturally a planner and an organizer. And so this came relatively easy to me. It was quite my nature. But I will say that my father is a financial advisor, and that's kind of what brought me into this career. And what's kind of kept me over the years is that it still amazes me every day about how much help people really need. I mean, I couldn't imagine being out there on your own trying to navigate the constantly changing tax planning, estate planning, legal planning, financial planning that's going on out there, especially when you've got your own career and job and family to deal with. And so, even the little decisions on a daily basis bring me a lot of joy to be able to help people through because it's just not easily accessible these days. I mean, you can get a lot of information on the internet, but that information is bit cookie cutter and for everybody. I love to help people apply that information to their specific lives.
I know you've described yourself as a quote, thinking partner for your clients. What does that relationship look like in practice, and how is it different from the traditional advisor client experience?
Yeah, great question. I think it's important to recognize that I am not here to make decisions for people. I'm here to help them make decisions. This is your plan, your life, your goals.
Hmm.
And there are no right or wrongs to your decisions, just trade-offs. And so I love to be there to help you understand the pros and cons to every decision so that you can make the best decision for you. I think it also speaks to how there's no judgment. There's no benchmark for clients. There's no, hey, do I measure up to everybody else? There's a different story to every client I meet. And that's really crucially important to embrace that because then when you have that conversation, they feel more confident and open. I am not, again, when you walk in the door, it's not, oh, you are this compared to somebody else. It's important that people feel comfortable, that they can be honest and have those honest conversations about who they are and what's most important to them.
Love it. Retirement planning can feel overwhelming for many people. What are some
Mhm.
of the biggest misconceptions you see people have as they approach retirement?
I will say I see a lot of people approach retirement as if it's only about money.
Mm.
Yes, that lends itself in a lot of ways, but there's so much more to it. And I tell people to give themselves a little grace, especially in the first year. You can plan your entire life for retirement, but when that big life change happens, a lot of things change and you have to embrace that. So it's not always going to be perfect. For some people, it's a change. They realize very quickly it's not exactly what they wanted. Some people know exactly how they're going to do it and it works out perfectly. So I tell people give themselves a little grace and we recognize that. So we come into the conversation talking about how it feels on all sides. So how it feels to not be working anymore, how it feels to not have that comforting paycheck coming in the door. And so while I say it's not all about money, often enough, the questions and concerns and anxiety people have do lend itself to money. And so we make sure to get in front of those and answer those what ifs. So it's important to address those head on. Otherwise, you end up finding on later on that they can't sleep at night, they're concerned, and that's not any way to live. And so it's really important to us to get down into those what ifs so we can give them peace of mind that while we can't predict everything, we can at least think through it now as well.
Your approach emphasizes helping clients understand both the benefits and the trade-offs of every financial decision. Why is that level of education so important, and how do you help clients gain that confidence?
I think it does go back to not just directing, but advising. I think I want people to have ownership of their decision-making process. Someone can feel very strongly about a specific decision, and it may not be the best financially, but it's not about me drawing a line in the sand and saying you're doing this wrong and you need to do it differently. It's about if you make this decision, this is your trade-off, right? You got to give up something to have something else. So for example, maybe somebody says, I want to spend $20,000 on travel every single year for the first so many years. Well, that's great. If your plan tells us that maybe that means giving less to grandkids or charity or spending less later, that you have to stop traveling at a certain time. It's not about me telling you what's right and wrong. It's about you understanding that there's trade-offs to every decision that you make and that I'm on the journey alongside of you. So often enough, I think by being there to just provide information, provide pros and cons, they feel more confident in saying, I have all the information in front of me. Somebody else has helped me make this decision, and now I can own it. And so I think that just naturally gives people more confidence.
I like it. Your bio mentions finding peace amidst financial complexity. What are some of the most common situations that create anxiety for clients, and how do you help them move through uncertainty to clarity?
Yes. So some very common questions. Should I be contributing to my Roth 401k instead of a traditional 401k? What else should I be doing for retirement? Do I really need insurance? I don't really want to pay the premiums, but I will if I know I need it. Do I have enough money to retire, and how long will it last? And another one tends to be my work benefits. I have so many different options in front of me, but what do they all really mean to me? And am I putting money in the right place? And I think one of my favorites is I don't know what I don't know. What am I not thinking of? What am I doing wrong? And so I think just coming alongside of people and helping them think through all of these things, it goes back to, again, you can find answers to so many questions out there, but they're not catered to you. And so, again, I kind of go through that process. And by the end of it, it's now I understand what's right for me. Now I understand what that means to do this. And it just means somebody is helping them weed through all of that information.
We often talk about the importance of coordinating or having a coordinated team of professionals. From your perspective, how does collaboration between a financial advisor, the estate attorney, the CPA, insurance agent create better outcomes for families?
Well, I have to say, multiple brains are better than one,
Mhm.
right? The more professionals you have in a room, the better outcome usually. But I will say it's important to have quarterback, to use a sports analogy, is you need somebody seeing that bigger picture. So you need somebody who does know why we're doing all of these things to kind of direct the plan. But at the end of the day, these professionals spend all day, every day doing that one thing. They're going to be the ones that are on top of the latest and greatest changes. While advisors, we know enough, we get into all of these areas and we spend a lot of time in them, but we're not an attorney who is spending every day looking at tax law or estate planning law. And so I think it's incredibly important to bring professionals like that into your life and to work together, to have your advisor talking to your CPA and to your attorney. I joke often enough, I'm the translator. The client tells me what they want to accomplish, and then I can go back and tell the attorney or the CPA what they actually are trying to accomplish because that can break down. They don't all speak that same lingo. So I think it's incredibly important to have all these people in your life working together. Just make sure that you've got that advisor to kind of direct that to make sure they're working together as well.
I like that. Now I got a
Mhm.
question for you. When you're working with clients to achieve their long-term financial and retirement goals, what challenges come up most often, and how do you help them successfully work through it?
So if I had to just pick one, I would say knowing their spending. That tends to be a big one. In fact, when I start to talk about that and they say, "Oh, I have no idea," I tell them they're not alone. A lot of people don't know how much they're spending on a daily basis, weekly, monthly, especially annually. So we have a couple of different resources we work through. We do spend some time backing into spending through paychecks. We analyze that kind of basic math and back into what they're actually spending. We also have a lot of resources out there through credit cards, and banks are now offering a lot of resources to track spending. We know what tends to work, what's helpful, and we just kind of build that dialogue with the client so they understand, what do I have to actually do to get this done? But at the end of the day, instead of letting it hold up the process, we have a way of at least getting a relatively accurate number so that we can move forward and give them some peace of mind. And so I think that's probably the biggest one often enough.
Yeah, good data tends to drive good decisions. I like that.
Right,
So, as
right.
someone who worked closely with families over years, frequently, many
Mhm,
years, what
mhm.
conversations do people tend to avoid that they really shouldn't be putting off?
Yes, so great question. I will tell you, first off, I often end up working with families that always say, I wish I had started this
Mm.
earlier. They wish they had come to this conversation earlier, whether they are planning for retirement and might be out of time on some things, or dealing with aging parents and thinking through their future legacy as well. But when it comes to the people that I have worked with already over the years, where we've gotten a lot of things done and built out that plan, the biggest one tends to be incapacity. So, talking about what's going to happen towards the end of life. For families that have children that are knowledgeable or that we're working with, which we love to work with multiple generations because it builds that trust and seamlessness through estate planning. But sometimes they don't have children, they don't have even a spouse, and they've been managing their life for themselves for a very long time. I'm noticing this is a big story as of late. This is a common conversation. And I think what I try to tell people is just trust that there are new resources. I say new, but they've been around for a long time, but there are resources. You just need the time to do it. So now's the time to talk through who your trusted people are going to be in your life. It's hard to embrace that they may be strangers to you today, but that's the point. We're going to spend the time to make sure they're not strangers to you when you need them most. You can't do that at the last minute because then you are depending on strangers. So look to your advisor to kind of help facilitate that conversation. You could come across some people, whether it's a care coordinator or your attorney or even your CPA, who you're just not connecting with, or they just don't understand you. It's time to find somebody different. You have the time to do that when you start planning early. And so, often enough, this is not a conversation that's going to come up on day one. It evolves over time, especially for families with children. They may realize as they become adults, it's not a solution to their future care. And so, again, it's just important to be thinking about that ahead of time so that you can take the steps, and it's very fluid. You can change it. This is not anything you ever have to lock in. And that's the key. Start thinking through these options to build in more options later on as well.
Well, I think most of us like to think that in the future we're going to be smarter and make better decisions, but the reality is many of us
Hmm.
are at the smartest, brightest, sharpest we're going to be, frankly, for the rest of our life. And so, does it make sense to do that thinking and planning now, or when we are more diminished at a later time? So, I love your thoughts on
Right.
that idea there.
Right. Yeah.
Estate planning and wealth management, they naturally overlap in so many
Hmm.
ways. What are some of the biggest opportunities that you see when financial advisors and estate planning attorneys work together early in the planning process instead of later?
Yes, this is a big one. So, if I can, let me comment on a few, or one very specific lost opportunity that I see a lot. And that's what we call the funding stage, or as
Mm.
attorneys call it. So, you go and you work with your estate planner, and then maybe you have a financial advisor, and you've got your plan in place, and then you have your assets running as they should. And the two never come together. Well, one is sort of dictating the other. How can they not, coexist? And so often enough, we'll see people spend all that time and energy to create a trust and then never fund it. They never change their assets to go to the right beneficiaries. They don't re-register their assets in different names to go to that trust. And so that's one of the biggest issues I see is, oh yes, I have done all my estate planning, everything's set. Wait a second, there's nothing going into this trust. So you've basically done nothing. And so I think that is a big point of when estate planning and your financial advisor come together. So really one of the biggest opportunities in addition to that is, first of all, they'll make sure you get all that done, but also because we have more consistent conversations with clients. We're having kind of the day-to-day conversations about changes in family and dynamics and values where people don't think about calling their attorney when those types of things change. I just had an experience not too long ago or had a client come into my office during a normal annual review and say, oh, here's my new legal documents. I've redrafted everything. Great. I read through them and I kind of reiterated them to her. And she said, no, that's not really what I want. I want to do this. Okay. So in your legal documents, that's not what you told the attorney. You've probably changed your mind or you just didn't really make it clear. So I immediately after the meeting pick up the phone, call the attorney, we have the conversation, and we realize exactly how we should proceed and adjust things. Well, I guarantee that client never would have called their attorney. They never would have had that conversation. 5 years down the road, they have the same estate planning documents that don't dictate correctly, and they're stuck with it. So if something happens. So again, I think the key too is we're having a more common conversation with clients and we can tend to translate what they're really thinking and feeling and making sure they're telling the attorney because I still don't see that consistent dialogue with attorneys most likely.
Interesting. You
Yeah.
actually just hit two of what we consider to be the four keys to a successful plan. Key number
Hmm.
two being getting the assets correctly titled, and key number four, making sure that you have a formal updating process or program in place. So excellent. I love
Right.
how we work together on that. I know
Yeah.
technology's impacted all of us. It's
Hmm.
changed nearly
Yes.
every industry that's out there. How has it improved the client experience in wealth management? And where do you believe the human relationship is still irreplaceable?
Yes, this is a great question. We have so many new tools at our fingertips. I can analyze a portfolio, I can analyze estate planning documents, a tax return so much faster than we used to be able to. But I still can't hand that report to a client. They're not going to understand those details. You have to be well versed in a lot of that. But even besides that, we have the tendency to look longer term. So, being the fact that we spend our days watching portfolios and such, we have a better frame of reference, while the average investor does not. They're looking at the shorter term and often think differently about the bigger picture than we can looking at that longer term. So, we are able to help clients filter out the noise and kind of focus on what they can control. But I think the big key is the human relationship really is irreplaceable. I have many clients who love to call me their financial therapist, not officially by any means, but I wear many hats and I help them navigate so many decisions, so many changes in life in different seasons. It's really about having somebody in their corner that they can lean on when they have a decision to make or even just talking through an issue. It's invaluable. You can't get that from technology. You can get answers, but you don't get understanding. I think that's the biggest key, the biggest differential, really, when you're dealing with a human being.
I love it. The emotional component just can't be replaced by
Mm,
technology.
no, no.
Looking ahead, what trends or changes in retirement planning and wealth management do you think today's family should be preparing for now?
That is a great question. And I probably could have a different answer any day of the week these days with how much is changing. But I think, and it kind of goes to my answer, I think flexibility is the key. I think we've really shifted when it comes to planning of the years of just sock away everything into your 401k as much as you can. There's still a lot of benefits to that, but you need to have different types of assets, different types of accounts to maintain that flexibility and to really build out freedom later on. So I think having a good mix of taxable assets, pre-tax, tax exempt is important, and really kind of building over time. Time is on your side when you start early. So I think that's crucial to start thinking about that as early as possible.
As we wrap up, if you could leave our listeners with one piece of practical advice that they could act on this week to improve their financial future, what would that be?
Oh, it's hard to think of just one, but I will say, and I think you hit on this just a little bit earlier, is dedicate a month each year to reviewing your financial picture. I know it's not fun sometimes, but you really have to. Look at your investment account performance. Just make sure in general it looks positive. Check your beneficiaries, read your will. Actually read, at least the main pages so that you can make sure that it's actually what you want. And then collect all your spending information from the year. If you find yourself with more questions and feeling less confident after doing that, then you need to seek out help. You don't want to let years of opportunity pass you by, because you lose that time, but you also dig a bigger hole if you're not doing the right thing. I would say true financial freedom comes from planning ahead. Time is on your side. So even though it can be painful sometimes, just take 1 month out of the year to focus on all these different parts of your financial life and at least remind yourself of what you've been doing. And that will open up a lot of things for you.
And we have some clients recently who have set aside their birth month. They've used that as their annual anniversary. And we had another client, they put an estate plan in place and they used the birth date of the estate plan as their annual review to go back and check on it. So,
right. I love that.
well, Kassi, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your experiences and your practical insights. For our listeners, if you'd like to learn more about Kassi and the services she provides, be sure to visit her website using the link in the episode's description down below. Kassi, it's been a pleasure having you on Legacy Blueprint, Plan It Forward, and we appreciate you taking the time to be with us. To all of our listeners, if you enjoyed the episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with someone who could benefit from the conversation. Join us again next week for another discussion with professionals who are helping families build and protect their legacy. Until next time, this is Mike Bascom, Plan It Forward. Thanks again, Kassi.
Thank you.
That concludes today's episode of Legacy Blueprint, Plan It Forward with Mike Bascom. Each week, we bring you insights from thought leaders across law, finance, and wealth planning. Because building your legacy is never a one-person journey. It takes a team of dedicated professionals working in harmony to turn vision into achievement. If you're ready to take the next step toward your secure future, visit bascomlaw.com or call 77028559493. And don't forget to tune in again next week as we highlight more experts and strategies to help you plan it forward with confidence.